prioritization of projects being considered for future funding. Any person interested in this process is welcome to attend. From Lisa Wilson, Region 1 Director. So anybody's welcome to attend if you want. That's this Thursday the 13th from 9 to noon at 166 West Southwell Street in Ogden, Utah. This next letter, and Stephanie, maybe you can help me out here. I don't know how to read the whole thing. This one came to my house. Dear Mayor Wilkinson, we are pleased to inform you that the historic property listed below will be considered by the State Historic Preservation Review Board for nomination to the National Register of Historic Places. The Joel Parish and Elizabeth House, 420 North Main Street. And they were supposed to meet on Thursday, January 30th, and I wasn't around in the boardroom of the Historic Denver and Rio Grande Depot to discuss this. Did you know about that?
Yes.
Okay.
Mackenzie was going to attend, and I have not heard a response. We were expecting a favorable result. That is the parish home right on the corner of Parish and Main on the northeast corner. So the Landmarks Commission conducted a study, and that's the one that was presented at the social that you attended.
Yeah.
And so that she did that presentation to the Historic Society to see if it would qualify for their additional designation.
Yeah. I kind of got, it was just down the street from me, but I couldn't get over to it. I had appointments, but I got the letter. I won't read the whole thing, but thanks for filling us in.
Yeah.
Will you follow through with McKinsey and let us know? Okay. As you know, we had one of our employees pass away, Joe Seacrest, and his funeral was a week ago Friday, and Neil Horsley's wife passed away. Her funeral is today. A week ago Friday, the mayors and city managers of 6 cities in South Davis met with Congressman Stewart. We discussed acquiring federal lands on the hillsides. We discussed wetlands. We discussed there was 2 or 3 other things. Brad,
impeachment trial. He was pretty fired up about that.
Yeah, he's going to take the last 15-20 minutes going over that. Yeah, so it was
discussion on wetlands. What the city's giving him feedback about the Army Corps of Engineer process, or what was the discussion?
Yeah, it was specifically Farmington requesting that of the process they had to go through. Of course, I had asked him, do you remember the time that we kind of paid our $100,000 to get some Brigham City wetlands where our residents can go duck hunting on? I remember going to Congressman Stewart that time. He says, hey, if you got that kind of deal, you're doing well. But so Farmington kind of had the same issues that, that they brought up with him. He says, I'll bring our issue to you and to our office, and we'll see what we can do. So that's, they're the one that brought up that issue. I'm the one that brought up the issue of acquiring federal lands along your borders. It was a good meeting. It took an hour. It was over at the Woods Cross City Hall. 2/18, which is a council meeting night, so I don't know that we can attend. I think it's mainly for our reps and senators anyway. It's a legislative night at the theater.
I was going to
We
suggest
usually
we
go to
cancel
that
so we can go.
in advance.
What's that?
We usually go to the beginning of that.
Yeah. I mean, I know 2 years ago it was on non-council meeting night.
Well, if we have
last year was on a council meeting night. It was kind of a big meeting, so I don't think we went at all. But yes, Councilwoman Fillmore.
I was going to say, if we have a light agenda like tonight, we could cancel a meeting.
You're getting spoiled right now with light agendas. Just so you know, you're going to pay for it later, because we had a number of other items that we're delaying. But yeah, I was just asking Leah if we had a work session or anything scheduled for that night. Well, I'm just wondering topics. I always give her like a list of topics that for work session.
Are you saying sometimes you run over for the dinner and then come back?
We usually do.
Not gone to the play?
We usually have him
Yeah.
past.
What time do you usually come back over here?
in time for council meeting.
7?
We just don't do a work session that
Couldn't
night.
we move council meeting to 7:30? I think the dinner's 6:30 to 7:30.
That might be good.
It is.
Delayed
So
start's
I don't
fine.
think we could get in and out because being served and everything, but I would think if we could move council meeting to 7:30.
Okay, we'll do, we'll.
Last year, we
skip
missed
that.
it. We had kind of a big one. We had a work session before, but,
Yeah.
so,
I think we're okay on the work session side, Mr. Mayor.
okay. So that is 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Okay. I told Jansen we have council meeting, but I said that, we'll see if we can get the beforehand, like we just talked about.
Sounds good.
Talked about local officials day. Read over the 2 letters with you. Tax reform was struck down. You guys probably all knew that, but, so, after that meeting with Congressman Stewart, I was talking with some of the other mayors, and, I've often wondered, because, I go to, meetings with our national CPA organization, if there was national mayor and council meetings, and I guess there is a National League of City and Towns, and some of our cities in Davis County do send representatives. Some don't get involved. My feeling is, I talked with Brant about it, I thought if we go to those, I want them to be useful. I want us to get something out of them. It was kind of at the same time that Brant started talking about federal grants, and I thought, yeah, what exposure are we getting to federal things? And then I think I asked him first, and he says, yeah, there is a National League of City Towns. And then I asked the mayors at that meeting. So I guess the question I'm posing is that I wouldn't see that. I think one of our local cities sends mayor and all five council members. I think that's pretty steep on a budget. But if there would be interest, if we looked at doing this National League of City and Towns and having a mayor and a couple council people go on every now and then. So that's something I threw out. It didn't even know it was out there, like I said, until the last couple of weeks. Looks like, Brant, you can.
Well, I was just saying, one of the other benefits that I mentioned to the mayor today was when you go out there is, again, you get out of a conference what you put into it. And there are some people that go to these conferences and have a good time, and there's others that probably do more work at conferences than they do here at home. But the other opportunity of going to DC for National League of Cities and Towns is meeting with your representatives. We get helps, you schedule all the meetings with your representatives, but more importantly, if we're applying for any grants, we meet with the Army Corps of Engineers or the Bureau of Reclamation. One of the big reasons why we were able to acquire so many grants down in Ephraim is we met with the agency and said, look, we're interested in this NRCS grant for the burn scar we have up on the hill. What do you want in the application? They tell you what the answers are. You have a cheat sheet. This is what we're looking for. This is what gets the most points. But what you're doing is moving your application to the top of the pile each time you reach out to them. And so having that contact, they no longer can dismiss you as easily because they have now a face to the name and a face to the city. And so while you're out there, you also make it an effort to meet with all who you need to. It's multiple purposes while you're out there, not just the National League of Cities. So
The access to our 4 congressmen, right, or congressperson people, and our 2 senators is pretty valuable. I've gone since 1999, every other year with the CPAs, and we've got to know them pretty well. And our delegation's pretty good at having the congressperson or the senator there present. And it's been a big benefit, I know, from a CPA standpoint as we lobby, mainly for bills that affect the public as a whole, maybe tax bills. But so, yeah, I can voice what Brant's saying there as far as that's one of the benefits of it. So.
Well, if it increases the chance to get federal grant money, that's probably a pretty good return on investment.
When's it held?
this year, it's generally held the first or second week of March. So this year, March 8th or 9th, I think, is when it starts. So we're a little over a month away from this one this year. Might be short on timing, get decent costs on flights and hotels, but for consideration for next year. I'm also part of a Governmental Affairs and Policy Committee for ICMA. I think I've mentioned that before to this council. So my meeting's on March 7th, and I have not scheduled my flight to go out there. Just again, I'm trying to conserve and save on money, but that's actually a very valuable conference, and I get to meet with Lisa Sornan, who's a superstar in the legal field, where we find out really what's going on in local government politics or in the legal side and things like that. But usually that's usually in conjunction with National League. So.
Do you have an idea of what you'd want to budget for this? I mean, I don't know what city it's in or any of that.
It's in D.C.
D.C., okay. So expensive.
It's expensive, but you get the hotel, the block rates are relatively
Right.
inexpensive. I haven't signed up for it.
Right.
I've never gone to National League of Cities. So I don't know what the block room rate is. You have to go through the process, because I did try to look it up, and you have to be registered to access it.
So not to bring Cameron up again, but does he have any experience about how successful their advocacy is at a national level?
So Cameron's on their board now, and
So he can get us a better rate then.
So he highly supports, yeah, maybe I can get a first-timer discount for the entire council. So Cameron, the cities that you speak to, so Bountiful is one that sends everybody. So if you want to get an idea of how beneficial it is, speak to anybody over at Bountiful, and I'm sure they can attest to it. So, Gary Hill, my counterpart, highly encouraged it as a city manager, because I always thought, this is a bunch of elected officials. Is there really a point for a city manager to go? He says, oh, you have no idea how valuable it is for a city manager. But anyway, so he encouraged it, so did Cameron.
I know that in my CPE training as CPA, I specifically, after many years of just filling the requirement, go to things that are beneficial and add, to my bottom line. And that's the same way I would feel about this. I mean, I would want it to obviously be a benefit and help in getting grants or with our elected officials or whatever the case may be. So we'd have to do a little bit.
And I echo that, because that's like, how successful are they with their advocacy? I've seen enough airports that unless there's a real specific purpose, it's something I can get out of it, I tend not to go.
Yeah. Yep. So, that's my report. Anybody,
Do you have something for Trust Committee?
oh, sorry. Yeah, down here. So, yes. I floated to you a resume for Del Roosh. Is that how you say it? He's your neighbor. Did I say his last name right? I interviewed Del actually a month or two ago, but we didn't have a spot available. But we have Blair Parrish rotating off within just less than a couple of weeks. So we have a spot available on Trails Committee, and Del was excited to take that on. So that's the name I float to you for Trails Committee.
I would. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
Bill knows him really well as well.
I don't know about really well.
Oh.
He's a neighbor. Yeah, I would propose that we approve the mayor's nomination.
Second.
Have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Robin, for catching me on that. So that is my report. If no questions, then we'll move to Brant for the city manager's report.
I'll try to keep it brief, but I do have 4 items. The first item is following up from conversation we had about adding a checkbox to our utility bills to allow donations to be placed for various causes, such as Community Foundation. John Hollingshead gave a presentation a couple of months ago. What we were able to find out is it's pretty minimal on staff time. It's actually, what we would do is look at it as a service or a fee that the resident would sign up for. So we'd have an application. We would put it as a service or a fee on their utility bill. Even if you have automatic deduction or automatic, ACH, it would be pulled out and put into this separate account that would go for that donation. So really our time would be creating that application, or that application that we'd provide to those who wish to sign up. So pretty minimal staff time. Mayor and I have talked about the idea of, if we do this, do you rotate amongst the differing 501c3s or activities? I think Community Foundation, bringing this up, that we would look at the Community Foundation first and see how successful it is. But the great thing about the Community Foundation that John Hollingshead discussed is, the great thing about us is we can take the money and donate it to Centerpoint. We can take the money, so each year they could donate a different cause through the Community Foundation, and then donate that money to that cause, whether it's Whitaker, Centerpoint, or whatever it might be. So I think it's something to pursue or look into. I think it's a pretty simple process. It's completely voluntary, and it would be marketing on our end and creating that application. But that's about it. So that was good to hear. I thought it was going to be more complicated than that.
Well, it sounds like the complicated part will be the administrative policies and the administration of how you do the rotation and all of that, so.
And that would be potentially determined by the community foundation making.
Well,
that
no, I'm
recommendation
talking
as
about how do you select which nonprofits are allowed, what their frequency is, what
Sure.
association they can have
No,
with
you're
the
right,
city,
because one will
all
say,
that
hey,
stuff.
I want money, and we're like, yeah, we're not giving you any money.
Right.
You're a for-profit business or something like that, yeah.
We did this a couple years ago with the newsletter policy, so it'd be pretty similar.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good advice. Any concerns with that? I mean, I could bring that, back for a motion for approval or anything like that, but
Do we have to bring it up for formal?
I don't know. I don't know if it's administrative or not, or if it needs approval. Is this something administratively I can do? Yes, Lisa's saying yes, so if you can give me guidance and direction without a
The
motion.
guidance is in the discussion of what's allowed to advertise in the newsletter.
Okay.
Are we okay with that framework?
I don't know, that's a good starting place.
Well, but yeah, I think I don't think the mechanics are the issue. It's really,
Yeah.
do we have the policy framework in place and the council's agreed on it?
Lisa and I will look into that. Thank you, good point. Okay, I'll come back to you with some information on that. Lisa Summers, I want to give you an update on Lisa Summers. She is reducing her role here at the city. She would like to give up the recreation side of the house. She's going in for, not to get too personal, yeah, she's going in for surgery, which will keep her out for a while. And honestly, she's been doing this a long time, and there's a lot that goes into the recreation that she kind of admitted that it's kind of worn on her. So we're looking at different ways of how to proceed with that. She would still like to stay on to do the youth council and the events, and all of our different events that we do. So we're looking at, she just provided a sheet of all that she does and how many hours she would anticipate working a year. And so now we're looking at, do we hire another Lisa to continue on with those recreational programs? I had a conversation with Councilmember Fillmore about possibly if South Davis Recreation District could take on some of these programs and keep it local. Now again, they would use fields, things like that, but you actually have other cities who, like Bountiful, they don't have a rec department. They use South Davis. Now luckily they're in there. But Woods Cross has been interested in having some programs. West Bountiful actually tried to hire Lisa a number of years ago to run programs, so none of them have programs. So we're trying to see if there's an alternative versus hiring, because Lisa made it her own, and so I really struggle we might find the right individual. Lisa's tried out a number of people over the years that haven't worked out. I think where we are right now is we would like to advertise for the position and see what results we get back. So I guess what I'm pleading for you is if you know some people that would be really great at running some of these great rec programs. I'm a little worried about kids camp because that was really beneficial. Now the city lost money on the kids camp, but I hear so many good things about it that.
But in perspective, how much money did we lose?
Very little.
Yeah, not long.
Well, it was about $10,000 in supplies. I don't know the exact revenue. I've just guessed 5,000 to 7,000 is what we'd collect in revenue. But the other programs would actually generate enough revenue to cover those costs, those losses.
How many kids does that number encompass?
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, so that would be the breakout.
I want to say it was like 200 or 500 is coming to my mind right now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
significant number.
I want to say it was 500, but I can't recall. I'll get back to you on that one.
I seem to remember that 500 was.
Is that
kind of-
okay?
But I don't know.
So we are in a transition phase. Whatever that means, we're kind of a weird place because this is where Lisa really starts ramping up with the rec programs and hiring, who's going to be the college kids or high school kids who help out during the summer. So we need to move quickly on some things. We've even considered the idea of having a summer off to reevaluate and restructure what we want to see that program look like. We don't want to do that necessarily, but I would be curious to see if South Davis has
I get a
some
lot of
options then.
complaints about, how come we don't have a basketball program? How come we don't have this program? And I'm like, well, because we decided to go in with the rec years ago. But there's a lot of people that sure love Farmington, and they're going to Farmington to all of they're not going to the rec center, they're going up to Farmington, and it's You know, they've got some
And
fantastic.
if we want to take on a larger rec program, I'm all for
Well,
it.
I'm not
but it-
saying
but
that,
it-
but I just don't know that I want to make it smaller where I'm already getting a lot of, we don't do anything for our youth.
Sure. And I'm not arguing we should. I'm just saying if we go this direction, that I can see costs increasing to try and accomplish the same things that Lisa was trying to accomplish with more people. She's been doing it a long time, and
She
so I
has.
worry about
And
that.
before she came, there was actually, and I don't know that they do it as much now, there were individuals that you could hire, like somebody that does ceramics, and you could hire them 1 day a week at each park. And so they just did they offered a class to our kids,
Mm-hmm.
but yet they kind of got a lot more.
We talked about all these different options. Yeah,
And the point is
Yeah.
that there'd be someone like Lisa organizing that,
Right.
right?
And
And
that's what we need.
that's what we're missing right now. is the
hiring,
person
she
who
said,
would-
is one of the most challenging things to do, is hiring and finding the people that have the time and work within their schedule and be consistent and reliable.
So I'm still waiting for that memo, by the way.
I talked to Bruce about it today.
So I met with her for about an hour today, and I expressed my concern is that having the rec district take it over they're just not going to be, in my opinion, as passionate about it as somebody local. But she expressed, finding the right person, because
Those are concerns.
to me, I don't want to lose those rec programs in the summer for our kids, because there's not a lot of families that can afford a $600 to $900 basketball camp or a volleyball camp. We provide those activities here within the city, and I think it's a wonderful service that we provide. So
I fully
We gotta
support
work
rec
through that.
programs. We didn't have much growing up, and I worry if the sports program was not subsidized, I would probably not be where I am today. I probably would be in trouble and getting into trouble and have a record of some sort.
We'd be coming to
But
visit you.
I played a lot of sport, that's right. I played a lot of sports, and so I fully support rec programs, and it is subsidized by the general fund generally. It's just how we proceed and what it looks like, because it might look different. It might have to suit the next person we hire, I think sometimes we have to go into it not thinking that it's going to be a Lisa program, but whoever we hire, make it theirs, because that's what we want, the passion behind it.
We had a fairly, I think, beneficial and tremendous experience with Mackenzie 3 years ago, when she worked over the summer and did the tree study. Wonder if she would know if we could find somebody that, for their own thesis type program, might be interested in taking on a program like that, which could, create a new way to generate the program. I think it's worth talking about. I don't know. I suspect that we're probably too late in the time frame for this year, which creates a difficulty.
Yeah, and that's where the thought is, maybe having a hiatus for 1 year to restructure and find out what that is. UVU does have a very strong outdoor recreation program, but again, that's more focused on, the football, the basketball, and those types of things, but there is an emphasis on these other programs. So that's something to look into. I worry about the hiring of individuals still in that scenario, because you're looking for someone to coordinate 24 individuals that are running the programs
Well, I think
individually.
it's a good idea to put that out there and find out
Sure.
what we've got, what people would be willing
So
to do for it.
so just so you know, I don't want to go too much further into a dialogue, but just saying, a discussion is just saying, we'd like to put it out there, see what we get back, and go from there.
I think we should, and I would encourage that a hiatus will probably lose us 50% of the program,
I agree. It's a concern.
so.
Because they'll go find something else, yeah, and then I don't know if we'll get them back.
And Lisa did provide me a list of all those summer programs, other summer programs that are out there, because we do hear those comments
So-
saying,
It's been a long time since I've had kids around the house, where I was paying attention. When do we usually put out our literature? What is our drop dead date to be making some sort of decision this year?
we're working on right now in the newsletter. The next upcoming newsletter would have that information. So.
We're out of time. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next, I wanted to make you aware that we are exploring the possibility of a new website provider.
Please.
And so I've asked staff, I'm a big fan of Civic Plus. I think they do a phenomenal job. They have other components that attach to this Civic Plus, the main website, to be easier for minutes and things like that for Leah. Websites can be done by, the way I like to do it is department heads own their website. They would edit the websites, but then we'd have someone reviewing the information before it gets published. So that way departments can also own their own, their web pages, put information out there. There's a search function on there. There's actually an alert function on there. So if people are excited, want to know about, water outages, they can put their email address in there. Information's not shared. So whenever there's a water leak, we just type in water leak and it automatically gets disseminated to those individuals that sign up. If they're interested in rec programs, planning commission, so you can sign up for whatever you want. Basically, you have a login. Each resident can have a log. Anyway, I love Civic Plus. They have different components of it. They have an HR component, a document, a clerk component. And so I'm not saying we argue for any of that right now. I just want to change the structure. So demos happen. The security, this is Councilmember McEwen and I's big concern. Security is actually top notch. They focus on local government. So we'll be presenting that to you, in an upcoming meeting for possible approval. And with that same token, we have secured a .gov, CentervilleUtah.gov email address.
Good.
So we'll be
And Utah?
Centerville, Utah. So it's not UT, right? So Centerville, Ohio spells out Ohio as well. I'm like Centerville, Utah. So anyway, we have secured that. So we'll more likely be shifting to .gov. We'll have .net point to .gov in the future. So that's kind of what we're working on the back end. And then finally, Councilmember Ince, I know we talked about the Veterans Park. I think you had mentioned some possible support for the Veterans Park over in Bountiful. I just wanted to get feedback from all of you. I did meet with Councilmember Simonson, and every city has advertised, not provided money, but advertised, putting your name out there. Everybody's participated except for Centerville. They haven't received any names.
You haven't received any names from Centerville?
That's what was shared
From
with
Centerville
me.
veterans?
Oh, my.
That's not
Okay.
true.
Well, it's not as
As much
active as the other ones then.
I think we should advertise.
So it is going in the newsletter. We have some information we'll be adding to the newsletter, but I also want to put a plug here to encourage our
My
citizens to do
specific
that.
comment was, and the prices are pretty spendy, but I'd like to see it. If I could figure out how to do it, I'd like to see us do a bench.
Maybe the foundation could help us.
Okay. Do we recall the prices on those benches? I knew you wanted to do something.
I'd like to do something to
Okay.
acknowledge it. I think it would be beneficial. I think benches are expensive. They're about $4,000.
Okay.
That's probably not expensive when you talk about something that's gonna be there for 50-plus years.
It's a pretty neat
Right.
park.
Right.
It's a really neat
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
I mean,
And given what it stands for.
we
and our
spend
commitment
2
is-
years, or
yeah,
$2,000 a year on going to the gala, right? So
Right.
double that for something that lasts forever.
I will
I think
prepare.
that
I'll see
this
if I
council
can.
wouldn't hesitate.
I'll see if I can find the money in the budget and tell you where it's coming from, and I'll let you vote on that to say yes, we'd like to do that. Does that work? Okay. Any questions for me?
Yes. When can we have a daylight tour of Island View Park?
Do you want it now in the middle
I
of winter?
want one. I've been wanting one for several months.
In the middle of winter? It's going to be pure mud.
Sometime,
Does this
I'd
include
like
hip
it.
waders? I mean, it's probably pretty messy out there right now.
She's
Right
on
this
the field
minute,
trip.
it's
I
very
haven't been
windy.
up there for a while, to be honest with you, but Bruce is giving me reports. So are you,
I'd like us to look at it before it's done rather than after.
so the estimated completion date is June.
Oh, wow.
For both phases. So you'll have an opportunity
Good.
potentially.
Oh, wow, I expected that it was April, and prior to that, I thought it was the
Phase
end of
one,
October.
yeah. So June, I think, is actually pretty ambitious. So
That is
But-
better than later than I had thought I
Much.
remembered it was.
they are pushing through the winter, which is actually pretty awesome to see them out there working during the winter. But is that something council would like me to schedule now, is a tour with the muddiness?
Does not sound tempting to me.
Not in the middle of a snowstorm.
I mean, certainly by early to mid-March, we
Okay.
ought to be able to.
Yeah.
Sure, and that's what I was thinking is
The
March.
groundhog didn't see its shadow. Don't you know winter's going to be over next week?
Is there a specific concern that you're worried about needing a field trip for?
I'm getting feedback that is not a smiley face from locals.
Okay.
And since we didn't receive, to my knowledge, here's what's being put in after we held the open house and said, everybody vote, I'm not sure exactly what we're getting. I'd like to just have a little more of a feel, because I'm getting a lot of questions and I don't have the answers.
Well, all those plans have been on Novus agenda. If you look back, there's many plans of what equipment is going in and what it looks like and pictures of that equipment. So Novus agenda, it's been on many council meetings where we've talked
It
about
has.
the
We've,
look.
we've talked about it, but
Could we
I
get it
wanted
put
the
on
numbers.
For the next meeting, just what the latest and greatest is?
Sure, you just want to update? Yeah,
Yes.
Maybe
absolutely.
we could get some pictures. Maybe you could go up there in your galoshes and take us some pictures.
I will ask Bruce to take some pictures. That sounds great.
Good answer.
Good delegation.
I'm willing to go any day that I don't have to change shoes. That's-
Well, then it's a
Leah,
good thing
do
you
you
didn't
have
go to the
anything to
cemetery
add?
for the interment, because you
Yeah,
had
I'm sure
to
that was
wade
pretty
through the
bad
snow
stuff.
to get down the stairs.
Yeah, we'll have Bruce here to
Cemetery.
report at the
Cemetery.
next meeting.
Okay.
That'd be great. We can do
That
that.
would be great.
It'd be pretty
Okay.
tough in our town, which have one of the highest
Thanks, Brent.
snowfalls. Not
I need to bring up one other thing. I've been reaching out and also been receiving calls and emails about potentially bringing gubernatorial candidates to our city. Spencer Cox campaigns reached out to me, Amy Winder Newton's campaigns reached out to me. I could reach out to others as well, too. Spencer Cox's campaign was trying to hit all the cities, and we're one they hadn't hit, and he's going to council meetings or laying sod or whatever we want him to do in the city. So I guess, I don't like the idea of bringing them to a meeting like this and having nobody here. So I guess I'm just looking for ideas if, number one, we want to do that, and number two, some things around the community that we'd want to
That we
take them
could
to if we did want to do it. So, and I would think that we could be successful in getting every candidate here at some point.
Would that coincide with any of the dinners done down here at the Episcopalian Church? Bring him down to a community dinner?
There's an idea right there. Yeah,
I think we need to
That
be
at least
careful
should have some
and be
numbers for sure.
yeah.
fair.
Take him to, we should take him to the
That's
theater.
the problem when we start that. is-
Yeah,
There
He
you
said reaching out to everyone. Everyone would
So-
be invited.
Well, he ought to attend the legislator one in 2 weeks.
My only concern with that is would the extra audience overload the dinner?
That's
effort?
true.
yeah.
Or we tell the
Otherwise,
staff
it's
to
a
eat
good
ahead of
idea.
time.
I think if we put out the information that they were gonna be here at a meeting, we could get people here.
Yeah.
Likely.
You could do the church community dinner and then a special meeting here afterwards, and then take him over for a tour of the theater.
I don't know if they would want to spend an entire evening with us. They have very tight schedules.
It's usually pop in,
Token.
give you an hour at the most,
Yeah.
half hour,
Well, whatever they want to whistle stop, I'm sure you got 3 options there at least.
yeah.
If he wanted to see people as opposed to a volume of people.
Versus
in a
politicians.
Campaign versus, several of us, that's one thing. I guess the question is, what is he looking for?
I'm sure he's
My-
looking
my-
for volume.
my-
of people.
Understanding from what you first said is you'd like to see a bunch of people here.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what they like. I mean, from a county standpoint, Councilman Stevenson's been arranging, and there's been 2 so far that he's invited mayors to go to, and I was able to get to one of them, and then one had to cancel. They didn't cancel, we had to, because we had another meeting going on, so I think he'll continue to bring some in, and during that process, I've just talked to him and said, hey, how about coming to our city, and obviously they're very interested, but if you want to do it, you obviously want to have some people.
So do we have any concerns about political neutrality and throwing out the red carpet and how we're going to make that happen?
That's-
Because my
that's-
issue would be,
that's-
We do as
concerns.
staff, just FYI. We have
Yeah.
What?
concerns. We have concerns from staff about political activities from
a visit from the lieutenant governor is a different activity. If he wants to visit as the lieutenant governor, I could see
Yeah.
that being throw out the red carpet for lieutenant governor, but not necessarily for candidate.
No, he would be coming. His reaching out was for the sake of the campaign. And so what I heard Mayor saying was, whatever we decide, the invitation would be extended to all of the candidates. Is that my understanding?
Look, if Lieutenant Governor wants to come and we have an activity, for example, laying sod, and he wants to say, hey, I want to volunteer to lay sod, great. But us scheduling something is where I have concerns. If you're talking about equal, let's say we have one event that has 200 people, another event is a city council meeting, there could be an argument being made that that's not equal or fair access to all residents. So if we have an activity going on and we can make him aware of it and he's welcome to come, but we're not doing anything special for him, I don't have any. Do you have any issues with that, Lisa? That's my
What I'm
feeling.
saying is
Public funds for political purposes, so.
What I'm saying is I would imagine that whatever the one activity is, the invitation would be extended to
all the
of the
candidates.
candidates.
I still don't think it should come from the city.
I think it's
mean,
something
you're
we should-
welcome to come out and use our library and get a room and
Or
Put out
League
their
of Women Voters
information.
want to rent the hall?
As staff, we'd be happy to talk to the mayor about some
Okay.
ideas.
you're in trouble now.
Leave it to the professionals.
Lisa's good.
You remember, my dad was an attorney, so I know how to deal with you. But he knew how to deal with me better, so. Okay, thanks. That just popped. So the item F is a closed session. Is there a reason for a closed session meeting tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay, if no reason, then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council's adjourned.
No, it was beautiful. Lisa, it was beautiful. I loved it. It was glorious thing.